Welcome to the Thrive Forward podcast today, friends. It is November, and in the month of November, having spent some time working in the retail sector of the world, yes, at one point in time, yours truly worked in retail. That's actually, I think some people spend time in retail, some people spend time in restaurants. I feel like it's either or. I don't think I would have done very well in a restaurant, so I ended up in a retail setting. Man, does it teach you a lot. That being said, the month of November and December see an increase in retail shopping. Guess why? We have all these wonderful holidays that we like to celebrate and gift giving season and all of those wonderful things. So this month, in the month of November, we are going to focus on how to spend, how to not get yourself in debt, what are some great steals and deals, and kind of how do we think about it in a different way? How do we give back during this time, the month of November, thinking about how we call it, at least in our household, Gratitude Day. So how can we give thanks? How can we give thanks not only just at one time in the year, but how can we teach others to give thanks? How can we do that instead of maybe leaning into the materialistic side of things? But on today's episode, we are going to talk about holiday spending and credit card debt. Have you ever found yourself tallying up that swipe this time of year because you don't want to attend that holiday party without a hostess gift, or your kids to have a full Christmas tree of presents, or you attend family get-togethers and have to buy every single family member a gift? Well, my friends, I want you to understand a little bit better about how to go into this holiday season spending. And if you say to me, Shannon, well, I've already got all of those steals and deals throughout the year because I do all of my holiday shopping throughout the year. Well, my friend, I think you can still gain one of those words, gain some insight as we move forward in this conversation for years to come afterwards. So let's dive in to that conversation. All right, friends, we're going to start with a few little stats. In 2020, Americans were expected to spend roughly about $998 on gifts during the holiday season. That was down from 2019 due to our lovely friend, the coronavirus. And I use that tongue in cheek because clearly it's not a lovely. That being said, this year, 2021, Delta variants aside, we are going to see some rising costs, despite the aspect of rising costs for things, but people also wanting to spend more money for those gifts as well. So because of supply and demand, if you paid any attention in Economics 101, or if you even had to take it, supply and demand, simply put, is the ability to have rising prices go up if more people want it because we don't have as many things to be able to provide people. So that being said, there will be an increase of spending this year. Have you budgeted for that? I know sometimes budget is a dirty word we don't like to talk about. And in fact, with my clients, most of the time I refer to it as cash flow so that we don't get too much in our feelings about that word. That being said, have you planned for that expense? Likely, most people have not. And if you have, congratulations, my friend. You are among very few. Now, as a part of that plan, did you have a plan to put it on a credit card? Because most Americans are seeing increases in their credit card spending. Why is it? In fact, 54% of Americans in 2021, according to a Lending Tree survey, have an active balance on their credit cards and did not pay that balance off. So let's just start with, my friends, some credit card like 101. It is the most expensive advancement of funds that you can get, or a debt instrument. It is the most expensive, with interest rates reaching much higher than 17% on things. With interest rates at a lower space, we've started to see them creep up a little bit more. That's very expensive. So if you think about it from the grand scheme of things, this is an example I found on CNBC, and I'll link a bunch of articles in the show notes to the podcast for you as well, all of the data that we're talking about today. If you had a balance of $1,325, so I'm just going to break that number down a little bit more, because that's very close to what someone's holiday spending might be. Now, I hope that you have the ability to score some deals, and maybe that's not as much of what you're spending. That being said, if you only paid the minimum payment, assuming a 15% interest rate, which likely it's higher, you will take 5 years to pay that balance off and will be racking up more than $600, or almost half of what your purchases were, just in interest. I'm going to let that sink in for just a second. 5 years to pay off, and basically it's costing you half of what your purchases were to be able to provide those gifts or whatever you needed to purchase. So with that said, I think we need to talk about some of the behaviors that come with holiday spending too. You find yourself going to the family for holidays, whatever holiday it is that you celebrate. In our household, we celebrate Christmas, and are starting to get in tune with our Jewish heritage and celebrating Hanukkah as well. Although I will tell you that I am not, I'm trying. We'll just say that. That being said, whatever celebration that you're going to, you go into your family and you feel like, oh, maybe we haven't seen each other. This is the first time we're all getting together. I want to make sure that I provide these great experiences for everyone. And oh my goodness, I have to provide these experiences in a little box that I give somebody. And maybe it's not a little box, maybe it's a big box. Maybe you have new people that are in your family and you want to be able to impress them. Maybe you're new in someone else's family and you want to impress them. Let's take a step back there, my friends. I think financial health can never be more impressive as a gift. Of course, I'm going to nerd out of that, but the gift to your loved ones of never having to take care of you financially is better than you trying to impress that person, right? I think that the more we can be open about what is actually important, right? So many people said after being quarantined or living in that experience of a shutdown, or even that extended shutdown that we've had and lived in, we've assessed what are the things that are really important to us. I've had clients who have come to me and said, you know what? I no longer feel like I have to, every time I see a girlfriend, I have to bring her a little trinket. Well, yeah, duh. Friendship is more than just the gifts that you give. Now, I understand that some people's love languages are gifts. How can you do those in a more impactful way? We've really got to sort through what are some of the issues. So I'm going to be vulnerable for a second, because look, you guys, I've done holiday spending and I really love the holidays. Like, I love being an elf. I love giving gifts. It is my jam. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love seeing other people's smiles. I love seeing my kids' faces light up. I love being able to create those magical experiences. And I always thought that it had to come at the price of something, right? Buying something, giving something, rather than maybe, I don't know, my oldest daughter loves just spending time with me. This morning we colored. So this year they're going to get date tickets for mom, date tickets for dad. They get to use those. We're going to use different tickets. Maybe they get tickets to get out of a chore, something like that. Anyway, when they were babies and toddlers, I wanted them to have everything. You want to know why? Because I didn't have any of it. I never had a Barbie dream house. I never had an American Girl. Well, no, I did have an American Girl doll, but I had to save my money up for that. I didn't have all the things that went with the American Girl doll. I was able to save my money up and get one, but my mom didn't buy one for me. I didn't have all those toys. Like, like that kid whose house you went to and they like had every single toy, right? I didn't have that. Well, I wanted to be able to provide that for my kids. And if we start to think about, being able to employ, if we talk about Santa and we partner with Santa, yes, I'm using it in a conspicuous way, my friends. If we partner with Santa, we still owe Santa money, right? Like Santa's not going to provide it all. So being able to explain some of those things in my mind to myself, like, what were you doing? You didn't need to have all of those things. In fact, you guys, some of these toys are collecting dust because my kids haven't been able to have friends over. And it's not as fun to play with their Barbie dream house if they don't have friends over. God forbid the two of them play in it, just the two of them. It happens like once in a rare moon. They would rather be drawing, painting, doing some sort of crafting activity than the massive amounts of actual toys that I had purchased for them. That being said, I was very blessed financially that I didn't have to take out credit card debt. And I recognize that that is a huge privilege because not everybody is in that situation. So that's where I come back to, if we're putting ourselves in a financial hurting situation, why is it really that we feel like we need to make those purchases? And some of us may be able to pay them off. Some might actually really, in theory, think that we would be able to pay it off based on the amount of money that we make. But the reality is we're not paying attention to the amounts of credit card debt that is racking up. So if more than half Americans have not fully paid off a credit card balance, that means that likely half of you listening today fall into that category. So I want you to stop and think, and maybe it's even taking a pen or pencil out and saying, okay, what is it that I really need to get? Who are the people that I need to purchase for? Is there something that I could give them that wouldn't even cost money? Because spending time together doesn't have to cost money either. Going on a walk, playing outside with your kids. Sometimes our kids don't want the thing, they want us. And the people in our lives don't want the thing, they want us. And if we really peel back the layers of the onions and have the conversation, like with my best friends, one of my girlfriends, bestest friend, she shows up at my house and I swear to goodness, if you bring me one more candle or mug, I'm going to accept it with love. But good Lord, girl, I just want you. That's all I want. I don't want anything else. And I think that we could attest to that same thing with so many different friendships and people in our lives. Let's just have time together. Isn't that what we missed in 2020 versus then getting ourselves in a situation where now we're paying off debt, which is a tailspin into maybe then we don't have enough money to save, which then we're not creating the stability that we actually truly do crave financially. So you see how that kind of all works together, right? So the first thing, as I always talk about, is probably the behavioral piece that we need to sort through. Now let's talk about not falling into every single advertisement that gets sent your way. And they know just because you've talked about it. I was purchasing stickers for an event that is coming up. Yes, stickers. They're cool and they say worthy on them. They're awesome. And they're for the business. Okay. I am now getting ads in Facebook and on Instagram for stickers. I quite literally am getting ads for stickers. I already purchased them. So friends, you are probably now going to get ads for stickers because I just talked about it and you listened to it. So you're welcome. But with technology now, things get put into our space and our minds that we think we need them. You don't need whatever is happening in your Instagram feed. I want you to get very clear with what are the things that you need. Again, going back to those behavioral things. Pause. If it's something that you really are like, oh, I like a lot, let's assess, do you have extra cash flow to be able to afford it? Have you set aside some money for some holiday spending? Is it for you? Is it for somebody else? Is it something that fits into that money that you kind of set aside and say that I need for spending for holidays? Put it in a cart and wait 24, maybe even 48 hours and assess whether or not you still want it. Not every sale or discount is actually what it says. In fact, marketing people are probably not going to like me for this, but people are going to offer you a promo price that is actually probably the regular price, but they just jacked up what they told you the regular price was and gave you what is appearing to be a discount. So friends, again, we fall ourselves into, I don't know, sitting up late at night, scrolling your phone, and you're like, oh, yes, I really need that bag. Or personalized dog socks would be great. Why don't I order those for everybody in our family? Look, I get it. But let's think about things not just as the things that we have, but the experiences. Okay. Now let's talk about even more sales, because I think I can fall into this problem too. The after holiday sales. Yeah, when everything's like 70% off. Again, let's just try to look at things a little bit differently. Do we have to have the thing, right? How can you get creative with something else? Because you see, my friends, the overall debt that continues to accumulate because we put things on what is so easily swiped as a credit card. And now you're racking up debt. So often do I hear from people who say, well, Shannon, I spend all that money so that when I get my tax return, I just pay it off. Okay, friends, you did spending in November and December, and maybe you went after holiday shopping in January, and now you have all of those months that you have collected interest on, and you might not get your return until after April. And if you're like some people, you're still waiting for 2020's tax return because they're so behind. That's not proper cash flow planning, my friends. And I'm not saying that to like laugh at you or say that strategy, but the strategy doesn't work, right? In fact, looking at what you can actually flow through. So sit down and do this activity for yourself. It's some of the first activities I do with my clients. Get real. Where are you spending all of your money? And what money is coming in? Is there more coming in than what is going out? Great. But how much more? And are you saving? Then, if there's not, how much of that is throwing off what you owe, right? Because you have to make up for that money somewhere. So is it balances on your credit card? Is it other things that you're doing? I am not shaming you for being in the space that you are from a spending perspective, but what I'm asking you to do is start to change your behaviors, because you will put yourself in a space where you will not be able to grow your wealth in a capacity that, my dear friend, you are so worthy of being able to do. But you've got to stop thinking that you have to have all of these things. The reality is the things are not you. And like I said at the beginning, most of your family is not going to want to financially provide for you, your kids, your loved ones, siblings, parents, whatever it might be. So take care of yourself, you and your family. That being said, there are also some really great tools and resources to get yourself out of debt, because let's also kind of transition into how does this affect your overall financial health? Well, if you're carrying balances on your credit card, that doesn't really look great when you start to apply for anything. Like maybe you want to buy a house or a car or a cabin or something else. You have to show your financial levels of responsibility. And your responsibilities are, how much debt are you using? and not paying back in what they give you. So you might have a $30,000 credit card limit, but you've spent $25,000 and you're paying it off little by little. That doesn't necessarily show what an underwriter would say or classify as responsible. So we talk about it in terms of what is called utilization. So the amount that you are actually using versus the amount that you were given. And then how likely are you to be able to repay? Those are two things that you can really control, my friends. And if we don't control that, your credit looks a lot worse and can get you into a situation where maybe you don't have the capacity to be able to purchase that home that you've always wanted to do, or that second property, or open that business, because you've got to be the one that's qualifying for it. So it's not just, I'm going to buy this toy for my kid. It does impact your life in so many other aspects of the way. So let's not get too crazy with what our spending looks like. That being said, if you've done that already, what I would strongly encourage is to evaluate if you have the accessibility to transfer some of those balances maybe to an interest-free credit card. Now, again, as always, these are personal situations. You have to assess whether or not you'd be able to qualify, if you'd be able to qualify for partial, whatever it might be. During those periods of time, then you can pay down whatever is left on a higher interest and then transition into paying off the no interest. The reality is we are in a debt situation as a country that is not going away. In fact, it's getting worse. There is a survey that was starting to be done by Magnify Money. And again, it will be in some of the resources that I list. But spending predictions for this year are rising about 8% in last year. And since 2015, when they started collecting the data, it's 34% higher, which means, my friends, we are spending more money than we have. Let me let that sink in again. We're spending more money than we have. Okay. Want me to get even deeper? Just going to get a little deeper. When you buy and drive up those sales for our retail partners, which I'm not discouraging you to necessarily not buy from retail, not go to Target, like go to Target, buy your gifts, get a good deal. But if you're getting yourself in debt because you're buying things from these companies and their sales are going up, well, guess what? That's driving their stock prices up, my dear friends. And their stock prices allow them and their executive teams to be able to accumulate more wealth as well. So what are we putting ourselves in a situation? Are we driving wealth up in one space while we're accumulating debt in another? Challenge you to look at it in a maybe different, more global way. How can you be responsible? And again, get back to the aspect of not spending more than what is coming in. And yes, am I here for you getting all the credit card points so maybe you can go on a spring break trip with your family because you've got racked up all of these credit card points? Sure. Just make sure you're paying your credit card off and you're not paying interest on something that you don't need to. You're allowing the credit card company to grow and become more profitable because you're paying them an interest for something that you had to have in the moment. So let's think about that a little bit further, my friends. In wrap up of today's conversation, I want you to think about your behaviors. What's driving you to spend more money? Set aside a list of the people that you actually want to be able to give gifts to. Who of those people on that list could you give something to that might not actually cost money? Or how can you find steals or deals to get them the gifts that they want? Again, sometimes life is about experiences and the people that we are with. So have we learned from 2020 the importance of the things in life, or have we already forgot them by December and November of 2021? I certainly hope not, my friends. There is nothing that you can buy to make up for time that is lost. There is nothing that you can buy to make up for what time is lost. So, my friends, I encourage you to look at things a little bit deeper, more responsible, not racking up that credit card debt and waiting until you get your tax return to pay it off because you're already paying a buttload in interest. Remember that statistic that I shared with you at the beginning. If you decide to spend $1,300 on your credit card, it's going to take you 5 years to pay off if you only make the minimum payment, and you will likely be, based on 15%, paying half almost of what you made in purchases. Is that worth it? Could you take that $600 and put that in a savings account so that you don't have to continue to do these things every year? Sometimes it takes us the opportunity to step back and reassess for us to really be able to move forward. And I want you to be able to always move forward, thriving in life, because you are so worthy of wealth.